Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, council members, city officials, and our streaming audience. I'd like to welcome you to the March 28th City Council meeting. We have 12 items on the agenda this evening. We are meeting here in chambers with public attendance and streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. Moving forward, if you would, Ms. Moss, please continue with the roll call of our members.
Greg Phillips.
Here.
Payne.
Here.
Nickerson.
Here.
Farrow.
Here.
Henderson.
Here.
Gillum. Preston.
Here.
Anthony Phillips.
Here.
Prohl.
Here.
Do we have a motion to excuse Ms. Gillum from tonight's meeting? I have a motion by Mr. Farrow, seconded by Ms. Payne. Roll call on the motion to excuse Ms. Gillum.
Greg Phillips.
Yes.
Payne.
Yes.
Nickerson.
Yes.
Farrow.
Yes.
Henderson.
Yes.
Preston.
Yes.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
Prohl.
Yes.
Excuse passes. At this time, would you please stand for Pledge of the Allegiance? Thank you, everyone. The minutes of the previous meeting have been distributed for review. Do we have anyone that has any additions or corrections to the minutes? Do we have a motion to accept the minutes as they are? A motion from Ms. Payne, seconded by Ms. Henderson. Roll call on the motion to accept the minutes.
Greg Phillips.
Yes.
Payne.
Yes.
Nickerson.
Yes.
Farrow.
Yes.
Henderson.
Yes.
Preston.
Yes.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
Prohl.
Yes.
Minutes have been accepted. We'll now go to reports of the committees. We'll begin with Community Affairs Committee with Mr. Greg Phillips.
Thank you, President Geringer. Last Monday, Community Affairs did hold a committee meeting on community nonprofit funding. We are in the process of getting that wrapped up through legal review, and hopefully that will appear on an agenda in April at some point. There are no agenda items on this evening's council agenda for Community Affairs, and therefore that ends my report. Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to Human Resources Committee. Ms. Payne.
Thank you, President Geringer. We had a committee meeting Monday evening as well, and that committee meeting was on rates of pay for seasonal employees. That item is on number 9 on the agenda this evening, and it's an ordinance establishing the pay rates for summer and fall seasonal employees for parks and recreation, swimming pool, engineering, administration, utilities department in the city of Chillicothe for the calendar year of 2022 and declaring it an emergency. And the reason that we'll declare it an emergency is so that once we do vote on it, it will go into effect right away. Some of these seasonal employees are hired in April. It does cover all these departments and about 56 different seasonal positions. And this ordinance, and everyone has it in front of them, it sets the salary, and we did change that salary from last year so that we could be competitive where other people were going to seek seasonal employment. And we had a difficult time last summer filling some of these positions. I do have a second item on the agenda tonight, and that is item number 4. And it is the third reading of an ordinance establishing rates of pay and other economic benefits for classified, non-classified, and management level employees of the city of Chillicothe and declaring it an emergency. So we will vote on that this evening, and I'm sure the employees in the city would appreciate our vote on that. That takes care of everything for human resources. Thank you.
Moving to Development Committee. Ms. Nickerson.
Thank you, President Geringer. Development has nothing on the agenda tonight, therefore we have nothing to report.
Moving to the Finance Committee, Mr. Anthony Phillips.
Thank you, President Geringer. Finance has three things on the agenda tonight. The first three items on the agenda tonight, all third readings. Number one, an ordinance accepting and appropriating $5,001 received as payoff of a CHIP mortgage and declaring an emergency. The second item, again, a third reading, an ordinance accepting and appropriating $3,381 in forfeiture of contraband funds and declaring an emergency. And the third is an ordinance authorizing the auction of miscellaneous items, including city-owned vehicles and equipment, which are not needed for public use or are obsolete or unfit for the use for which they were acquired. This is also declaring an emergency. We also met last week for a committee meeting, which is a first read tonight, for an ordinance accepting and appropriating $10,242.60 received from recycling of scrap water meters for use towards replacing other aged meters in the city for the water distribution system. And that is all we have in finance. Thank you.
Next is Parks and Recreation Committee. Ms. Henderson.
Thank you, President Geringer. We have 5 items on tonight's agenda. The first is item number 5, which is a second read for the Kenworth Truck Parade. Pretty exciting. Kenworth wants to show off a lot of their hard work, and that'll be Saturday, June 18th, beginning approximately 8:30, depending on the light. They'll have about 60 trucks go through downtown. Be pretty neat. Second item is item number 6, and that is a street closure for the Yellow Day celebration on May 6th, involving most of the local schools and a lot of downtown businesses going around doing acts of kindness. Third item is for street closures for the Feast of the Flowering Moon, which is May 26th through the 30th. Fourth item is item number 11, allowing the Parks and Rec Department to apply for an Ohio Nature Works grant, which will total around $150,000 to repair approximately 2.5 miles of the Paint Valley Recreational Trail, or the bike path, as a lot of folks know it. I think that's a pretty exciting one. It's definitely a need of those repairs. And then the final item that I have tonight is item number 12, and that is a street closure for a half marathon hosted by 50 West Brewing Company, and that will be Sunday, June 5th. Reminder on some upcoming events. The Leprechaun Chase was rescheduled for this coming Saturday, April 2nd, and then the Fight Like a Kid 5K, Saturday, May 7th. Details can be found on Facebook. And then another event that we have coming up here pretty quickly is Arbor Day, which will be April 29th. And I'll have more details on that later on. One other exciting piece of information that I would like to share from the Chillicothe Tree Commission is we are getting 3 seedlings from the Great White Oak Tree in Logan, Ohio. So if anybody's ever been to see that tree, it's pretty spectacular, and Chillicothe is going to have 3 seedlings. So I'm super excited about that. And that is all I have.
Thank you. Next up, Safety Service Committee. Ms. Preston.
Thank you, President Geringer. We have one item on the agenda tonight. It's going to be number 8, a second reading of ordinance amending section 121.021H of the codified ordinance of the City of Chillicothe as it pertains to nuisance property code enforcement, declaring an emergency. We did have a committee meeting this evening in regards to 19-093 livestock within the city limits. We talked about a draft of a law that Mr. Jason Miller sent to me in regards to the livestock in the city. We're going to continue to discuss some of that information. We had some questions about the reasoning for the 10 weeks of age on the animals, so we're going to do a little bit more checking into that and then continue that process at another committee meeting. I also want to remind everybody about Fish with a Firefighter. It'll be April 9th in the city park from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. So I want to remind everybody about that event going on. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Next, our engineering committee, Mr. Farrow.
Thank you. The engineering committee has nothing on the agenda this evening and nothing new to report.
Next up is City Services and Transit Committee. Do any of the members of that committee have anything to report? And finally, our Utilities Committee, Mr. Prohl.
Well, we have no items on tonight's agenda, so that will make my report very short. Just keep drinking water. It helps us all out. I wish I had something else to say, but that's all we got for now. I did see here. Sorry. I did want to say that earlier, if I'd be remiss if I did not add this, but earlier during the Safety Service Committee, when we were talking about livestock in the city, my oldest daughter got up to speak. But as it pertains to chickens, my youngest daughter, who is in the audience, is going to go to state science fair to represent Zane Trace in this area, dealing with chicken eggs. So I wanted to say congratulations to her, and that's all.
From there, we'll move to the reports of our officials. Our mayor, Mr. Luke Feeney.
Thank you, President Geringer. Just commenting on tonight's agenda, in particular, item 9, which is up for first read tonight, as Councilwoman Payne mentioned, is of some urgency. Appreciate that committee's swift action to sort of adjust our seasonal pay rates to make sure that we could get in, hopefully get in help this summer. I think we all know the challenges around hiring right now, but last year we really struggled to keep anybody on for anything close to the summer. So hopefully these adjusted pay rates will help with that. So I would support the passage of that item tonight. Just a few other items of business and a couple comments. The police have now passed their contract, so that'll be the last of the 3 of the bargaining units. A committee assignment will come, if not tonight, tomorrow, and then it can be on council's agenda for next meeting if council chooses to vote on that item. We have received email tonight from Councilwoman Gillum, who has emailed myself and President Geringer announcing her resignation. And so I just wanted to share that with the group and thank Councilwoman Gillum for her time here. As she noted in her email, I think that her business obligations have become, really quite busy. I think back to when her establishment opened, which is hard to believe, but it was before the Carlisle was built or restored, and to see the growth, not only of her establishment and a couple others that predated the Carlisle downtown, but proud of her, the work she's done there, and the work she did on council. So I wish her the best moving forward. I think it was a difficult decision for her, but I appreciate the time she's given to council in this community. I also wanted to comment on the, I suppose, ongoing saga of our health board. As council knows, and as the members of public know, we have 2 vacancies. The city appoints 3 members to the health district board. The district advisory committee appoints 4. We had a unique situation in our last meeting, which resulted in a tie vote. After that meeting, Law Director Villarreal and I went back and forth and arrived at the conclusion that the appropriate procedure for really appointments of any kind going forward would be a committee assignment request, followed by committee. Items can be on the agenda, public can have awareness, that sort of thing, and then council action. I think that probably would have resolved the issues that we dealt with 2 weeks ago. So I have made that committee assignment request to Council President Geringer, for for one of the vacant seats. That's a 6-year term starting January 1st of 2022. My recommendation to appoint Dr. John Gabus to that position. And then I will be coming forward with a second appointment, a name recommendation, committee assignment request for that other term, which is a 2-year expiring term before our next council meeting. And I also wanted to address an email that President Geringer and I received from the Health District Board President, whose name is Glenn Thompson, who sent an email to us basically reaching out for, I suppose, advice on sort of our process. This was almost 2 months ago now that he sent it, but I think it's sort of bubbled up into the public domain here recently. Appreciate Mr. Thompson's suggestions to us. In his email, he recommended that perhaps the board was lacking in, I believe he said an attorney or somebody from the business side. He suggested more diversity to the board. And I just want to sort of clarify for folks who have questions, because I did have people reach out. Mr. Thompson's an appointee of the District Advisory Committee. The District Advisory Committee has 4 appointees. The city, of course, has 3. So the appointees that I'll put forward, such as Dr. Gabus, represent what I believe is in the best interest of the city's interest. And I believe that Dr. Gabus is perhaps the best person I could possibly think of to represent the city on the health board. With that said, I will be putting forward another nominee. I would also point out that the District Advisory Committee, with their 4 appointees, can also appoint a attorney or business person. And they actually have a meeting. The District Advisory Committee meets this week on March 31st. So they do have the opportunity, if they see fit, to appoint an attorney or a business person with their appointment. So I think it's an opportunity to, I suppose, get those needs that Mr. Thompson saw addressed. But just wanted to clarify that essentially he represents the other appointees, and we as a city still have ours. Hopefully that offers some clarity. And then I'd like to conclude with some really exciting news, which is that last year, probably in the spring, when we were looking at the sort of infrastructure money that was coming out and really hoping that we could secure some funds for the community, we targeted our wastewater treatment plant, which, as many know, is in need of essentially a complete rebuild. It's a project that started off, we estimated, our engineers' early estimates were around a $25 million project. It is now estimated, with the sort of concerns around supplies and material and work, it's an estimated $40 million project now. Part of among the things that it does in its current design phase is increase dramatically capacity, which is something that if you look at things like the Intel site, we are very keen to improve so that we can attract a business. And then for folks who live in or around the 4th and the 6th Ward, it will eliminate the odor. So it's not $40 million worth of odor elimination, but it is a significant change for that neighborhood. In any case, we were under the impression that our hopes on the Senate side for funding had not gone through, but we received word last week that we received $3.5 million in funding that Sherrod Brown secured for us, the largest single project on the Senate's Interior Committee, and about 30% of the total award for all of Ohio for that committee. So 13 projects awarded in Ohio. Ours was the biggest, and representing about 30% of that total award. So we are up to about $8.5 million in grant funds per project. That's $8.5 million that we as taxpayers won't have to pay in fees, taxes for that project. And so just want to thank that vote, thank Senator Brown, and on that project, we are close to completing essentially what is a rate review, so that we can present to council recommendations on how we move forward with funding the project. But a $3.5 million windfall will significantly impact those potential rates in the future. With that, I will conclude my report.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to our auditor, Ms. Becknagel.
I do not have any new items on the agenda today, so therefore I do not have anything to report.
Next, our law director, Ms. Villarreal.
Thank you. I actually don't have anything other than all these. There's lots and lots of items after me that you guys are going to read. So we prepared all those. And other than that, we have no report.
And next, a report from Council President. President has nothing to report. Moving on, we'll move to audience participation. Council Rule 22 does limit each speaker to a 5-minute presentation and a total limitation of 15 minutes per any subject. If you get to the point where you're getting close to the 1 minute left, I'll try to indicate to you your time is coming to a close and to summarize your presentation. Anyone who wishes to speak, we do need for records your name and address.
It's me again. Thank you, Council President, Mr. Mayor. Well, my name's Michael Cade, and I live at 380 Meadow Lane, and I'm glad you have me do that each time. That way I know where I live when I leave here. And also to the animals in the city. I have 2 neighbors. One of them has chickens, and they have a rooster, and he ain't too popular in the neighborhood. And sometimes I think about a Sunday chicken dinner. And I have another neighbor who has quite a few ducks and a few dogs, and they're not very popular either. I don't know why the dogs haven't ate the ducks. That don't make sense to me. But I spoke about a few weeks ago Mr. Colburn Farms, and I just wanted to add one thing to that, what I talked about back then. Meadow Lane is really a very narrow street. And so when 2 vehicles try to get past each other on that street, it's very difficult. Well, if it's a dump truck, it's impossible. And so what happens is one of the vehicles has to get off into people's yards and causes some problems. And when it comes to me, I stand my ground and I make the dump truck go around. I don't move. But there are other people nicer than I am. They will move out of the way. Just a funny thing, but on a serious note, with what's going on with that. And I know that there's been talk about hiring a person that takes care of blight. Is that the word I'm looking for? And I'm just going to skip that because I have a few questions, but I'll deal with those later. Just one more mention of something. I know that there's been a lot of talk about our main streets like Bridge Street, Main Street, Western Avenue. And one of my things that I think about quite often, and I talked to Ms. Nickerson the last time, is the noise. And I think the noise could be handled fairly simply. The other things we need to handle on like Bridge Street is phenomenal, is trying to handle that traffic. But the more and more people that are out there on those roads, the more and more the noise is going to be. And I have a son right now who's learning how to drive. So guess what? I'm going to stick him out there on Bridge Street. So he's going to be one of those increases that's going to happen automatically over time. But if, and I don't know if this should be mentioned here or not, but when it comes to these exhaust systems that are on these vehicles, it's phenomenal. And I know when I was 20 years old, if I had a vehicle, it didn't have a muffler on it, I got a big ticket. And if it did have a muffler and it was still noisy, I still got a big ticket. So I don't know why anymore they don't pass out more of these tickets, and maybe we could generate enough money to pay for a new sewer system. And as many as there are out there with no exhaust systems on them, we could probably come pretty close. and I just a final thing. I go to church over there in that district, and I wish our church could pay for that sewer system because it is, and the people that live in that neighborhood, it is a little difficult. So I'm glad to hear something's going on with that. Thank you.
Hello, friends. My name is the Reverend Terry Williams. I live at 47.5 East Main Street. And I'm here tonight because I am very interested in seeing what's going to happen with Dr. John Gabus's nomination. I'm interested to know how many other people here are interested in that tonight as well. I think there are a few of us who are very interested to see how Dr. Gabus is treated and what the process looks like. I am a little concerned, though, because when Dr. Gabus's nomination first came up, it was reported in the media by Mr. Coleman and Miss Reeves back here that there were a few folk who voted no because they were worried about process, worried that there wasn't a proper process and a proper vetting, and totally understand that. But the second time around, when the opportunity was given to have a different process, nothing changed. That was brought forward in the same way to this council. It was put to a vote in the same way, except we ended up with a different outcome because we had 4 on one side and 4 on the other, and we took 30 minutes to count 8 votes. I'm a little worried about that because now we have another try at this, another attempt at this. It's going to come through a committee assignment, of course, but I'm interested to know what the process is going to be in terms of that engaged kind of, council working to figure out how we come to a consensus as a group around that. Because it doesn't seem like the process has been laid out very well in front of us. I'm interested to know, particularly from the president of council, who I recognize is not a member of the council, is a member of the executive authority. But I'm interested to know, President Geringer, whether you intend to assign that to a committee soon, in this week, maybe next week, and how that process is going to play out. Should we expect a regular committee meeting of that committee? How will the public know that that committee is meeting to make that consideration? And when will we be able to see that move to council so that it can either sit for 3 reads or be declared an emergency, seeing as we're already partway through that 6-year term? We're already, 3 months into it? Might be 4 or 5 months into it by the time we get around to acting on it. And then to see that second seat done in the same way, I feel like it's important, particularly for those of us who are here for that matter tonight. So I'm interested to know, President Geringer, what your intentions are.
Those are great points, great questions. And I think as we saw that process roll out, just to go back to your initial comments, the process that I think was referred to as from concern was the amount of time from the Friday announcement to when they found out about it on Monday. So the process then changed after that as multiple council members got to interact with Dr. John Gabus. So I think you're continuing to see that process evolve as we move forward. And now the mayor has assigned that to me, requesting a committee. So at this point, we're going to look into the committee. I'll form a special committee to take a look at that. It'll then have regular committee meetings. And as you're aware, because I know you watch this so closely, the committee meetings will be announced, and those will be both to the public as well as the media and council members. Any of the community can come and interact at those committee meetings. It'll be discussed, and then if it makes it out of the committee, then it would actually go onto the agenda as a resolution for the approval of it, and would be open for a vote again. That would go to 3 reads. As far as it being an emergency, we've already been informed by the health district that they have a quorum and they can function as they are currently. So I think it'll be vetted fully. It is interesting that it has been voted on now 3 times, and 3 times Dr. Gabus was not confirmed. But we'll continue to work our way through this process. I certainly don't think that we're going to have votes on it continuously until maybe the outcome that you're looking for happens. but we'll continue to work through the process nonetheless.
I appreciate that. Now, I am concerned about two things in particular that were raised. Particularly the idea that folk on council have had consultation with Dr. Gabus. I'm interested to know, just simple raise of hands, how many people here have had that personal conversation with Dr. Gabus, if you care to let us know. Has anyone? We got one taker over here. I'd encourage you all to have a conversation with Dr. Gabus, because I feel like the more conversation we have with Dr. Gabus, the better outcome we might all have. And I am a little concerned also to hear that there might be a concern around how exactly this comes forward in committee. I hope that is publicly announced, and I hope those processes are open not only to the comments of council, but to the comments of the public. So I appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.
I don't do this, but thank you for the opportunity. I'm Beverly Wilkes. I've been here a couple of decades now. And truthfully, I'm nobody. You know, I'm retired and I worry about people and I care about people and I do my best I can, you know. And we did the Pledge of Allegiance, and I haven't done that regularly since I was in school. I don't even know if they do it now. I love the last part where it says liberty and justice for all. And I'm thinking about the all as the nobodies, but also the people that are truly the most vulnerable in our community, the people we might lose this year. And I know very well that Dr. Gabus has been strong in helping those folks. So I just don't understand the problem. And I want you to reach in your hearts and think about these people that need a person like him the most. Thank you.
Could we get your address for the record, ma'am?
156 Hanover Drive.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Colleen Abathy. I'm at 1580 Orr Road, but we do have a business in Chillicothe. I've just observed what's going on. I don't quite understand why, and I don't know Dr. Gabus, but I don't understand why after 3 rejections, it's still coming up. Maybe there's a less contentious person that could be submitted.
I'm Hope Roll. I'm here to speak again, and I am from 13 Club Drive. I wanted to speak again due to I wanted to talk about my chickens' experiences and raising them. I found our first chicken in a Walmart parking lot, and we named her Dolly after Dolly Parton. And we realized that we didn't want her to be alone because chickens have negative effects when raised alone, and they can become extremely sad, and chickens actually can become depressed. So we adopted 6 chicks, all hens. We named them Priscilla, Talon, Karen, and one second. Chica and Little Chick. And all of them have grown up, and they have caused me to care for many more things. And I dearly love those chickens and care for them with my entire heart. and they are almost just as loved by me as I am with my cats. And I believe that we should be able to treat them as such. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Hi, I've never done this before either. My name's Lindsay Cobb. I just moved to Chillicothe from the Columbus area. I live on 7 Patrick Court. I don't even know what ward that is. But I also work at the VA here in Chillicothe. I work in mental health. I'm a physician assistant. I deal with a lot of patients struggling with substance abuse. Recently, I was working in the urgent care, and one of my patients that I also see and that I've seen on the inpatient side came in. He was homeless, and he had talked to us about how one of our social workers who works at the VA had recommended this shelter for him to go to here in town. And we had asked him where that was, and he said it was on Keller Road by the university. And this was news to me because I just live right around the corner. And he said, I don't want to go back there. And we said, why don't you want to go back there? You know, the social workers have been over backwards trying to help you to find a place. And he's like, well, I'm a struggling opioid addict, and you're sending me to a place where they're actively shooting up in their restrooms. They do no background checks. I have a lot of concerns. I'm a new member at St. Peter's Catholic Church. I know Bishop Chiillicothe is right around the corner. And I didn't know if any of you knew what was going on at this supposed emergency shelter. I will be the first to stand with these patients who are suffering from opioid addiction, any mental health crisis. That's my job. I love doing what I'm doing. But the residents, especially the people on my street, had no idea that this was going on. There are a lot of children, especially young girls, that live in our neighborhood and play all the time. And none of their parents were aware of this emergency shelter. And they're not doing any background screenings. When I lived in Cleveland, a lot of the homeless shelters, especially where there would be men at, they would do background checks where they're actually monitoring if they're registered sex offenders. So I don't know if any of you guys were aware of this, but it's very concerning. It's I don't want to be I hope I'm not sounding like a hypocrite because I want to help these people, but I don't know if this is the right setting where it is located in this neighborhood setting, I guess. So I would just like to bring that to light, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. From there, we'll go to old business. Does anyone have any old business that they would like to bring up this evening? Not seeing any. Participation or correspondence received by the clerk this week?
I've not received any petitions or correspondence.
On to new business. Does anyone have anything new that they would like to bring up at this time? Moving on to committee assignments and meeting dates. Any meeting dates or announcement?
President Garrett, I'm sorry. It's not a council meeting, but I forgot to mention, last week we had a couple public meetings for the Choose Chillicothe master planning process. There'll be another one. It's advertised online. It's this Thursday. It's an online event. We had about 70 attendees between the two sessions last week. This one is a virtual lunchtime this Thursday, which is the 31st. So not a council meeting, but I was remiss in not mentioning that another good thing going on. I apologize. I believe it's 11. Here, let me check. It is 11:30 to 1. And there'll be a Zoom link. You can just log on. The Zoom link will be on the Facebook page and on the city website.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As far as committee assignments, since the last meeting, we've had several, and I'll quickly and briefly go over those. Assignment 22028, City Services. That is an assignment for advertise for bids. Assignment 22029, Street Closure, Parks and Recreation for Arts in the Streets. And 22030 to Finance, Fund Appropriation for Beacon Meter. And that's what we've had come out since our last meeting. From there, we'll move on to legislation. We have 12 items on our agenda this evening. Ms. Moss, whenever you're ready, you can start with item number 1.
Thank you, President Geringer. Item number 1 is a third reading of an ordinance accepting and appropriating $5,001 received as a payoff of a CHIP mortgage and declaring an emergency. Item number...
Roll call on, yeah. Roll call on the ordinance.
Greg Phillips?
Yes.
Payne?
Yes.
Nickerson?
Yes.
Farrow?
Yes.
Henderson? Yes. Preston?
Yes.
Anthony Phillips?
Yes.
Kroll?
Yes.
Ordinance passes. Next, item 2.
Item number 2 is a third reading of an ordinance accepting and appropriating $3,381 in forfeiture of contraband funds and declaring an emergency.
Roll call on the ordinance.
Payne?
Yes.
Greg Phillips?
Yes.
Nickerson?
Yes.
Henderson? Yes. Farrow?
Yes.
Anthony Phillips?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Kroll?
Yes.
Ordinance passes. Moving on to item 3.
Item 3, a third reading of an ordinance authorizing the auction of miscellaneous items and including city-owned vehicles and equipment which are not needed for public use or are obsolete or unfit for the use for which they were acquired, in accordance with Ohio Revised Code Section 721.15 and declaring an emergency.
Roll call on the ordinance.
Nickerson?
Yes.
Greg Phillips?
Yes.
Payne?
Yes.
Henderson?
Yes.
Farrow?
Yes.
Anthony Phillips?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Kroll?
Yes.
The ordinance is passed. Item number 4.
Item number 4 is a third reading of an ordinance establishing rates of pay and other economic benefits for classified, non-classified, and management level employees of the city of Chillicothe, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Roll call on the ordinance.
Anthony Phillips?
Yes.
Kroll?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Farrow?
Yes.
Nickerson?
Yes.
Henderson?
Yes.
Payne?
Yes.
Greg Phillips?
Yes.
Ordinance is passed. Item number 5.
Item number 5 is a second reading of a resolution granting use of certain city streets for the Kenworth Truck Parade on Saturday, June 18th, 2022, and declaring an emergency. President Geringer, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to waive the 3-read rule on this. So Kenworth being a large company can finalize their plans.
Motion by Ms. Henderson, seconded by Mr. Greg Phillips. Roll call on the motion.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Farrow,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Prohl,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
Motion is passed. Roll call on the resolution.
Henderson,
Yes.
Farrow,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Prohl.
Yes.
Resolution is passed. Moving to item number 6.
Item number 6 is a second reading of a resolution expressing cooperation and granting use of a certain portion of Paint Street to the Downtown Chillicothe organization for its Yellow Day celebration on May 6, 2022.
That item will move to the next meeting. Item number 7.
Item number 7 is a second reading of a resolution granting the use of the city park and surrounding streets from Thursday, May 26, 2022 at 8 a.m. through Monday, May 30th, 2022 at 11 a.m. for the preparation, operation, and cleanup of the annual Feast of the Flowering Moon and providing for coordination of its events with the City Parks and Recreation Department.
This item will move to the next meeting. Item number 8.
Item number 8 is a second reading of an ordinance amending section 121.021H of the codified ordinances of the City of Chillicothe as it pertains to nuisance property code enforcement and declaring an emergency.
President Geringer, I'd like to go ahead and waive the 3-read rule on this so the city can move forward with hiring a nuisance.
Motion.
officer.
Seconded, Ms. Henderson. Roll call on the motion.
Payne,
Yes.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Farrow,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Prohl,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
Motion is passed. Roll call on the ordinance.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Farrow,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Prohl.
Yes.
The ordinance is passed. Item number 9.
Item number 9 is the first reading of an ordinance establishing the pay scale for part-time summer and fall seasonal employees within the Parks and Recreation, Swimming Pool, Service, Engineering, Administration, and Utilities departments of the City of Chillicothe for calendar year 2022 and declaring an emergency.
That item will move to the next meeting. Item number 10.
Item number 10 is the first reading of an ordinance accepting and appropriating $10,242.60 received from the recycling of scrap water meters for use toward replacing other aged meters in the city's water distribution system.
That item will move to the next meeting. Moving back to item number 9. Will you read that again, please, Ms. Moss?
Yes. Number 9 is a first reading of an ordinance establishing the pay scale for part-time summer and fall seasonal employees within the Parks and Recreation, swimming pool, service, engineering, administration, and utilities departments of the City of Chillicothe for calendar year 2022 and declaring an emergency.
Can I have a second on that? Ms. Nickerson. Roll call on the motion to reconsider to waive the 3-read rule. Roll call.
Greg Phillips,
After reconsidering, yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Farrow,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Prohl.
Yes.
Motion is passed. Roll call on the ordinance.
Prohl,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Farrow,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Payne,
Absolutely.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Ordinance pass. Moving to item 10.
Okay, item number 10 is the first reading of an ordinance accepting and appropriating $10,242.60 received from the recycling of scrap water meters for the use toward replacing other aged meters in the city's water distribution system.
That item will move to the next meeting. Item number 11.
Item number 11 is a first reading of a resolution authorizing the City of Chillicothe to file an application with the Ohio Nature Works Recreational Trails Program grant and declaring an emergency.
President Geringer, I'd like to make a motion to waive the 3-read on this as the deadline for filing this is very quickly approaching in about 2 weeks.
Motion by Ms. Henderson, seconded by Ms. Nickerson. Roll call on the motion to waive 3-read rule.
Payne,
Yes.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Farrow,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Prohl,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips.
Yes.
Motion passes. Roll call on the resolution.
Henderson,
Yes.
Farrow,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Nickerson,
Yes.
Prohl,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Greg Phillips.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Item 12.
Item 12 is a first reading of a resolution expressing cooperation and granting use of a certain portion of Paint Street to 50 West Brewing Company for the 50 West Half Marathon.
That item will move to the next meeting. Does anyone have anything else that they'd like to add or bring up at this time? If not, do I have a motion for adjournment of the meeting? Motion by Ms. Henderson, seconded by Ms. Farrow. Roll call on the motion for adjournment.
Greg Phillips,
Yes.
Payne,
Yes.
Nickerson, Farrow,
Yes.
Henderson,
Yes.
Preston,
Yes.
Anthony Phillips,
Yes.
Prohl.
I guess so.